on Christmas Eve. 1971, 17-year-old Juliane Koepcke fell 3,000 meters from the sky. Alone, injured, lost in the Amazon for 11 days.
I have to get out of here. I have to live.
On Christmas Eve 1971, while many families around the world were celebrating the festive season, a tragedy was unfolding in the skies above Peru. Lanza Flight 508 cruised through the air, its passengers unaware of the impending disaster. The aircraft, a Lockheed L-188 Electra, was on a routine flight from Lima to Pucallpa. As the plane soared above the jungle, dark storm clouds began to gather. The crew, experienced but cautious, knew they were heading into a potentially dangerous situation. Yet, they pressed on, hoping to navigate through the storm. The plane carried 92 souls, each with their own stories and dreams. Among them was 17-year-old Juliane Koepcke, a young girl with a bright future ahead of her. She was traveling with her mother, eager to reunite with her father for the holidays. Juliane, a student with a passion for biology, had spent the past year studying in Lima. She was looking forward to spending Christmas with her family in the remote town of Pucallpa, nestled deep within the Peruvian jungle. As the aircraft entered a massive thunderstorm, the sky turned a terrifying shade of black. The once calm and serene flight quickly transformed into a nightmare. Lightning flashed, illuminating the churning clouds. The passengers, now gripped with fear, could only watch as the storm raged around them. The plane shuddered violently as turbulence tossed it around like a toy. The crew struggled to maintain control, but the storm's fury was relentless. Suddenly, a deafening roar ripped through the air. The sound was unlike anything the passengers had ever heard, a harbinger of the disaster that was about to unfold. Passengers screamed as the plane plummeted from the sky. The once orderly cabin descended into chaos, with people crying out in terror and clinging to their seats. Juliane, strapped to her seat, watched in horror as luggage flew through the cabin. The force of the turbulence was so great that it seemed as if the plane would be torn apart at any moment. The world spun wildly around her. The once familiar surroundings of the airplane cabin became a blur of motion and noise. Then, an ear-splitting crack echoed through the fuselage. The structural integrity of the plane had been compromised, and it was beginning to break apart. The plane, torn apart by the force of the storm, began to disintegrate. Pieces of the aircraft were ripped away, exposing the passengers to the elements. Juliane, still strapped to her seat, was ripped from the disintegrating aircraft and plunged into the abyss. She fell through the sky, surrounded by debris, with nothing but the dense jungle canopy below to break her fall. The wind howled in Juliane's ears as she fell through the sky. Below her, the dense jungle canopy rushed towards her at an alarming speed. Still strapped to her seat, she tumbled through the air, buffeted by the wind. The force of the fall knocked her unconscious. Time seemed to stand still. Then, with a bone-jarring impact, Juliane crashed through the rainforest canopy, her fall miraculously cushioned by the dense foliage, and her seat acting as a makeshift parachute. Juliane regained consciousness to find herself lying on the jungle floor, dazed and disoriented. The last thing she remembered was the plane plummeting through the stormy sky, the deafening roar of the engines, and then, nothing. Now, she was surrounded by the dense, suffocating greenery of the Amazon rainforest, the cacophony of wildlife filling her ears. She was alive, but alone in one of the most unforgiving environments on Earth. The realization hit her like a wave, and she felt a surge of panic. The Amazon, often referred to as the Green Hell, was a place where survival was a daily battle, even for the most experienced. The impact had left her with a broken collarbone, a deep gash on her arm, and a swollen eye. Every movement sent waves of pain through her body, but she knew she couldn't afford to stay still. The jungle was teeming with dangers, from venomous snakes to predatory animals, and she was vulnerable, but the will to survive burned bright within her. Juliane had always been resilient, a trait she inherited from her parents. Her father, an experienced biologist, had often taken her on expeditions into the wild, teaching her how to read the signs of nature, find food, and stay safe. She remembered her father's words, an experienced biologist who had taught her valuable survival skills, during her time living with him near a research station in the Amazon. His lessons echoed in her mind, providing a glimmer of hope. She knew that staying calm and thinking clearly were her best allies in this dire situation. She knew that her chances of survival depended on her ability to find help. The jungle was vast, but she remembered her father telling her that following water sources could lead to human settlements or rescue teams. She decided to search for a stream or river, hoping it would guide her to safety. But the jungle was vast and unforgiving. Every direction looked the same, an endless sea of green. The dense canopy above blocked out much of the sunlight, casting eerie shadows on the forest floor. The sounds of the jungle were both a comfort and a threat, reminding her that she was not alone, but also that danger lurked everywhere. The air was thick with humidity, the forest floor a treacherous maze of roots, vines, and decaying vegetation. Each step was a challenge, and she had to be careful not to trip or injure herself further. The oppressive heat and constant buzzing of insects added to her misery, but she pressed on, driven by the hope of finding help. She had no food, no water, and no way to contact the outside world. Her survival depended on her ability to use the skills her father had taught her and the strength of her will. As she moved through the jungle, she kept her eyes and ears open, hoping to find signs of human presence or a way to signal for help. The journey ahead was daunting, but Juliane was determined to survive the green hell. Glimmer of hope. After 10 grueling days, Juliane's perseverance was rewarded. She stumbled upon a small hut, a beacon of hope in the seemingly endless green expanse. The hut belonged to a group of local fishermen. They were shocked by her story, a tale that seemed ripped from the pages of a survival manual. They gave her food, water, and most importantly, human contact after days of solitude. The fishermen transported her downriver, where she was finally reunited with her father. Section 7. Legacy of Courage. Juliane Koepcke's story is a testament to the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit. Her survival against insurmountable odds is an inspiration to us all. It teaches us that even in the darkest of times, hope can flicker within us, guiding us towards safety. Her story reminds us of the power of knowledge, the importance of never giving up, and the strength that lies dormant within each of us, waiting to be unleashed when faced with adversity.